that.
Yeah.
Well, it would only be done to cause a flu pandemic. You're listening to The Real News, therealnewsradio.com, here on Liberty News Radio Network, WSIC 1400, WDSL 1520. We'll be back with Dr. Carley in 3 minutes. We're back on The Real News, and we're joined with Dr. Carley. How you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
I thought we'd start today, if you want to, just give us maybe just a little bit of a brief history of the flu of 1918, the swine flu of 1976, and maybe your opinions of the differences between what we're seeing today with this H1N1 flu.
Certainly, and since we don't have much time, I'll encourage the listeners to go to republicbroadcasting.org at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, because I'm going to be covering this topic for 2 hours on my show today. The 1918 quote-unquote Spanish flu pandemic was started by inoculations given to soldiers in World War I. And there's an excellent book written about that, Vaccinations, a Silent Killer, by Ida Honoroff and Eleanor McBean. And what happened was the war ended faster than they thought, so they had all of these inoculations left over. And as the soldiers were coming home sick from the war, they told the people that it was their, American duty to get inoculated with these leftover inoculations. And the inoculations, in fact, is what spread the pandemic to the degree that it did and caused all the deaths. In fact, Greece refused to take the inoculations, and no one in the country of Greece got the quote-unquote Spanish flu, which was not a Spanish flu, by the way. It was actually a paratyphus organism that had morphed because of the fact that it was given in conjunction with many other viruses in the inoculations into the soldiers. As far as the swine flu epidemic in the 1970s, that was another scare that they tried to mount, and I was shocked actually to see on C-SPAN or CNN, I think it was, a couple of days ago. I'm going to be playing that clip on my show today. The CDC official at that time, his name was, let's see, I can't find it quickly, but anyway, this individual actually was fired from his job because of the fact that he recommended that all of these people get the swine flu vaccine, because only one person died from the swine flu, whereas 25 people died from the vaccine, and thousands were made paralyzed from Guillain-Barré syndrome. So they're trying it again, and this is a very amazing distraction. It's had the tea parties all over the country. People were starting to get fired up about all the corruption and fraud that's going on right before the torture tapes had been released, and people were starting pressuring Obama to, have war crime charges brought against these individuals that are pretty much doing the same thing that they did in Nuremberg. And all that's gone away now. All we're hearing about is the swine flu.
Well, I agree with you on that, and we're going to be covering in our second hour some of the information on torture that's not being reported. But I wanted to ask you here, we're not in flu season. We're seeing a flu that is a combination of swine, avian, and human flu. And for the first time that I know of, we're seeing a flu that attacks the young and the strong rather than the weak and the elderly. Does this have all the earmarks of something that has been manufactured in a lab?
A biological weapon, no question. In fact, the 1918 killer flu had the same characteristics of being able to kill young people. And in fact, there's a amazing DVD that people can get from the public broadcasting system, pbs.org, called The Killer Flu. And in that DVD, they actually interview the scientist, Jeffrey Officer of the Army Institute of Pathology, who went to a lab and did a bunch of dead body people who had died from the 1918 flu, defrosted them, was able to get the virus from these dead people's lungs, grew it in the laboratory, and sequenced it and figured out the entire genetic sequence. So it's self-evident to me that this was a man-made virus. And in fact, on my show today, we're also going to be covering this release of bird flu from the Baxter Pharmaceutical Company into Europe and that was picked up by the international media. There was a total media blackout in this country. Of course, I'm sure it had something to do with the fact that Obama owned stock in Baxter. But what I think happened was because of the fact that the international media found out about that Baxter release of bird flu to Europe, what they did was just change the name of the virus. They're calling it swine flu now. It's actually a combo of swine flu, bird flu, and human flu. So why are they calling it swine flu? I mean, it's very suspicious.
Well, what's your opinion of, I saw reports 150 dead in Mexico, 180. Then today I saw a report only 12. We're at category 5. It seems to be mild in America. Reports are saying that it's much harder on the Mexicans. Could it be race specific? And why is the World Health Organization and the press making this seem like a worldwide pandemic is just imminent, but then the evidence doesn't seem to show it? Are they preparing us for something else that's going to come 3 or 4 months down the road?
Well, it could be race specific. They certainly do have the capability of doing that when they're developing these bioweapons, making them more pathogenic for certain races. However, what I think is happening now is it's pretty much all hype. They're just trying to whip people up into the panic mode so that when they unleash their vaccine, which, by the way, they already have it stockpiled. It's been produced for some months now. Millions of doses are already stockpiled. It's probably got a bird flu label on it. They'll just take that label off and put swine flu on there. But they're just getting the people into a panic mode so that when they give a certain amount of time so that they can take the vaccine out of storage, because it would be too obvious if they said, oh, we've got the vaccine ready now. People would say, how did you make it so fast? So they're going to let a few months go by, and then they're going to offer the vaccine to people, and people are going to be, running to get it, having been so scared at this point.
Dr. Carley, we see all the newsreels with everyone wearing these little paper masks. Does that do anything whatsoever to prevent catching, anything at all?
Well, I don't know that any of these that really show whether or not it does, because it's not a spell on your, airway passages. Air can in from around the sides, and, a lot of this is spread by contacting. What I'm suggesting to everybody that I talk to, what I would do if I was them, is get themselves a colloidal silver generator, because the FDA is trying to take colloidal silver off the market. So at some point we might not be able to access it at the health food store. But I'm sure colloidal silver will kill this. And if you take it through a nebulizer and actually breathe it into your lungs, then you're going to be fine. As a matter of fact, I did a radio show last night which has links all over the world. And one of the Russian people that was in the hookup was saying that the front page of Pravda yesterday in Russia was a story about colloidal silver and how it will protect people from this virus. Isn't it amazing how in our country the FDA is trying to take it off the market, while in Russia they're telling the people they better get some?
That's some excellent information that people need to be made aware of. I had heard you mention one time that the flu that killed so many in 1918, the government had actually went to Alaska and dug up the bodies to ascertain some of that flu. Could you go into that just a little bit? We should be coming up on a break here in roughly maybe 60 seconds, something like that. But go ahead. Okay.
Well, as I was mentioning, the audience can get the DVD. It's called The Killer Flu. Go to Amazon.com or BS. Get it yourself. They interview the scientists who went there. And it's really chilling what he says. He actually makes a statement, and I'm going to play this on my show today. If we can shed light on why the 1918 virus was so low and understand the genetic basis of that info can be applied to the emergence of new influenza strains.
Hold that thought. We're coming up on a break. Hold that thought. We'll continue with the flu of 1918 when we return here on The Real News. In 3 minutes, we're here with Dr. Carley. News. And Dr. Carley, go ahead with what you were, finish your thought on the 1918 pandemic flu that killed out. I heard different reports, up to 50,000 in the United States. Is that what you say also?
Well, I have no idea what the numbers were, and it's totally irrelevant to me, because the most important thing that people have to realize is that this was a virus